Alright guys, what's going on? It's a new day, a new project, and actually the last project for this build. And that's going to be front end limiters that I'm going to install to limit the amount of front end travel during hard launches. So there's a couple of different ways that it can be done. There's different kits out on the market. I decided to make my own kit, basically just using someone else's design. UPR makes a kit that's $65. I'm cheap as hell, so I'm basically just going to do the work myself rather than buying their kit, because it's basically a universal kit where I would still have to do all of the stuff you're about to see me do. The only difference is it comes with all the parts already made. But luckily, now that I have a job working as a fabricator, it gave me access to plenty of tools that made fabricating the parts quick and easy, and then also free, because I was able to pull the little bit of steel I needed out of a scrap bin at work. So rather than spend $65, I made these 4 pieces right here out of scrap for free. These 2 pieces I had laying around for more than a decade. I bought a ton of these tabs. They're actually longer and have an arch to them. I got a bunch of these though. But anyways, I haven't used them. They've been sitting in my toolbox. Still have more for other projects down the road. But anyways, I was able to use those. I'm not even counting that in the cost. So really the only thing I had to buy was a little bit of chain. This chain was $1.10 per foot at Home Depot. I bought 2 feet, which is more than I'm going to need. So with tax, I have about $2.30 invested into this project. And then after that, it's just going to take a little bit of labor, which, like I said, if I would have bought the UPR kit, which is the exact same design, the same brackets that I made, I just copied them. They use a chain just like this, so it's not like I'm half-assing it in any way. $65 versus $2.30. The labor would still be the same as far as the actual install. I'd have to grind on the arm to clear off some of the powder coating, and as well as the frame, and then actually weld the pieces in. The UPR kit's not a bolt-in kit, and neither will be mine. It's a weld-in, but that's real simple, no big deal. There's a couple other nicer ones. I like the one where you have the one tube sliding inside of the other tube, and then you just change the pin for where you want the limit to the suspension travel limit to be. That was $125, and it would have taken more effort to duplicate at work. I would have had to ask for help rather than this version I was able to do myself. So this is the route I went. So that's the goal. I'm gonna knock that out today. Hopefully, I unfortunately have to go to the DMV in a couple hours, so I might not get it done today. If not, it'll be done tomorrow. And then after that, I can start driving the car. I have done some things since the last time you guys saw it, or since I made a video. Nothing major. I basically did an alignment, garage alignment. I haven't driven it yet. The tire is now pretty much straight up and down, as close as I can get it, as well as toe in, toe out. That's been set. So should have no problems driving down the road with it. I have run the car a couple times, just let it idle, just to make sure the pump does its thing. It's doing great. I've had no problems with it, no issues whatsoever. So very happy with that. No more leaks. And, everything's working great. So it's just a matter of getting these travel limiters in, and then ready for some highway pulls, just to make sure the air fuel ratio is good. It should be. I've actually leaned out my tune, and that's what I will be testing to make sure that I'm still in a good place. But you know, remember, it's the same engine, same computer, the same tune, everything as what was in my last Mustang. So there's no reason why it shouldn't be safe. Timing's good, air fuel ratio is good. There's nothing stopping me from actually just going straight to the track and making pulls. But it doesn't hurt just to double check everything before I get there. So next month, the plan is to go to the track. So I will be able to play with it a little bit between now and then. Hopefully I'll get to make some passes. It'll be low boost, conservative tune, just see what it does. Hopefully low 10s, high 9s on a street tune. And if I'm able to do that, then I know that I'm on par for where I want to be. So anyways, let me pull out some tools and start taking some measurements, see how things line up, and then we'll get some work done. Okay, so I've pulled out my welder, I've mocked up the pieces, excuse me, but it occurred to me that I didn't really explain exactly what the limiters are for, and so let me do that real quick. Basically what it is that this is going to mount here. This bracket right here with all the holes in it is where I can make my adjustments. The chain will run to a tab that's going to get welded down onto the control arm. And basically what happens is that during a hard launch, the front end's going to come up, and you can basically fine tune how far it comes up with these limiting chains. So I'm going to start off with a 3-inch lift in the front of the car. So after I get that upper bracket welded in and then the lower bracket welded in, before I cut the chain and actually bolt it all together, I'm going to jack the front end of the car up, measure it ahead of time first. I'm going to lift it up 3 inches, so it'll basically simulate 3 inches of rise in the front of the car, or 3 inches of suspension travel. And then I'll stop, I'll hold it there, and then that's where I'll cut and attach the chain. And then as I go to the track, I can make adjustments, either more or less travel, depending on my needs. And the reason for parts like this is that, as cool as wheelies are, they look awesome, and you know, everyone likes seeing them. It looks impressive, etc., etc. If you're going up, you're not going forward. And the purpose of going to the track, especially with a car like this, is I want to go forward as fast as I possibly can. And if I'm wasting time and energy lifting the front end off the ground, that's taking away from time and energy that could be spent just going forward. So the idea behind these is that it's going to keep the front end on the ground while still allowing the weight to transfer back. It also stops this particular spring. For whatever reason, this spring won't stay in this little pocket or retainer, whatever you want to call it, when the suspension completely drops out, and it never lines up exactly where it's supposed to. So if it were to come off the ground, the spring will drop down far enough to get out of this little groove, and then it shifts over, and then when it comes back down, it's going to be, you know, cocked. It's not going to be sitting where it's supposed to. So that's super irritating, because this piece is supposed to travel down, but due to friction, it doesn't travel down. The other side works as it should. It's not going to affect anything, and with the limiters in place, it won't even be an issue. So these straps will actually take care of 2 problems at one time. So I've already marked off the areas where I have to grind, so I'm going to grind the paint off, get it down to bare metal. You can see one of my marks down here, and then I can weld the pieces in place. Alright, down to bare steel in both locations, so I'm going to go ahead and get those tabs welded up. One thing you might notice different is I'm wearing safety glasses. From all my other videos, I never wore safety glasses. I'd weld in flip-flops, but now after working in a shop, doing fabrication on a regular basis, I'm required to wear safety equipment when I'm there, so it's now become routine. It feels weird to do this type of stuff without the glasses on. So, probably for the best. Sometimes habits can be a good thing. Alright, that's in there nice and good. It definitely feels different welding steel. My new job, I pretty much just weld aluminum. So haven't welded steel in a while. And I also don't do it with a hood like this. All the different safety equipment I wear at work, it's all auto darkening. So, man, I didn't realize how awful it is to weld without it. Anyways, let me get the bottom bracket in place, and then I can I guess I'll do the other side, get everything welded up, and then I can adjust the chains at the same time on both sides and be done. All right, bottom tab is welded in. Looks pretty good. I couldn't film it just because I couldn't get my body into place with the camera where it was. So sorry you guys missed out on that, but not super exciting. It's just the exact same thing up here took place down here. So now I'm gonna go ahead and weld the other side, and then after I do that, I'll start filming again, and I'll get the car up in the air. You know, like I said, 3 inches. And then after those 3 inches are achieved, I'll start taking measurements so that I can go ahead and cut this chain. Okay, so both sides are now welded up, ready to go. Jack is under the frame here. I took measurements before and after at the point of where the tire would sit, not way in front or way behind. So it's up exactly 3 inches from where it would sit if it was just not moving. So this is what 3 inches of front end lift would look like. So pretty decent amount of rocking back, and I can still add more than a full inch. If I remember correctly, these holes are I want to say like 5/8 inch apart. So still a decent amount of travel left in it. I can add back to it, and or I can obviously subtract by changing the mounting location here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up cutting this chain here, since that would be a little off. I'm going to go with this one, since this hole is kind of elongated anyways. So I'll go ahead and cut that. Everything should line up good, and if that's the case, I'll duplicate it on the other side. All right, well, that's going to pretty much wrap it up. Let me go ahead and show you. This is what it looks like with the chain pulled tight. I had to grind a little bit off the top right here so that the chain above it could sit, you know, appropriately. So that clears just fine. The other side, I'm missing a bolt. I have no idea what happened to it, so I'm gonna have to go pick one up before I can finish the other side, which is why I haven't lowered the vehicle back down to the ground. But this is how it's gonna look. As you can see, it's holding no problem. This is where the suspension travel will stop. And as you can see, this thing, the spring here is still well within its pocket, so no issues with the spring popping out of place like I was complaining about earlier. After I get this side put back in, I did have an issue with running out of welding wire, and I also didn't like the way it sat, so I just broke the tack welds off that I did. So everything's measured out, the other side's done, except for the final welding that one piece back in and getting the one bolt that I lost. So that's pretty much it. I'm gonna run to the hardware store real quick, and after I get everything put back in, I'll pick up the video again and show you what it looks like, the other side fully welded in, and then I'll put it back down on the ground and you can see the slack in the chain. It's not going to be excessive, it's not going to be an issue as far as the chain hitting anything, because remember, it's only 3 inches of travel, which means there isn't a ton of extra slack in the chain. So once I get that all done, I get back from the store, I'll put it all together, and then I'll pick up the camera again. Alright, after an ordeal at the DMV and a stop at the Home Depot, I was able to get everything I needed. This is the final product, all bolted up, ready to go and do its thing. The chain is not going to touch the exhaust pipe, and even if it does, a little bit of rattling isn't going to be the end of the world, but it definitely won't damage anything. This little bit of slack here is exactly 3 inches of travel, so the suspension can drop down 3 inches before the chain actually starts doing something. It's the exact same on the other side. I made sure that the chain was taut when the chassis was up 3 inches. So it does look slightly different just because of my manufacturing differences from side to side. But it's basically identical, exact same system thought process went into it, whatever you want to call it. So anyways, as far as the build is concerned, I only have one other thing. I need to hook up my bump button for the trans brake. It is still just laying down here. I mean, technically It does work. I have videos on how, there it is right there. I have videos on how to make that DIY bump box, but it basically allows me to crawl into the stage beam while on the trans brake and not having to let go of the trans brake. But that's done, it's working, everything's good there. I just need to mount it somewhere. I have a spot in mind, I just have to get around to welding up a tab, which I think I have somewhere. I'm just not sure what I did with it. Worst case scenario, I'll just pull something out of the scrap bin at work and make that work. So it's no big deal, it's not an issue whatsoever. I just have to get around to doing it. So I'm not gonna bother videotaping that. There's no point. It's literally a piece of metal with a hole in it and I'm gonna weld it to something. Done. The wiring's already done. So with that said, this car is basically done. Now it's just a matter of testing. Next month is the track I plan to go. The track will be closed after next month for a couple of months because of the cold. So, excuse me. Next month is my one and only shot to get it down the track before springtime. So that's the plan. I'll probably take it tomorrow, do some cruising around with it, nothing crazy, just to make sure nothing weird happens, since the car only has maybe 3-4 miles on it since I bought it in May, I think it was. This is now the 2nd of November, so I've had it for a long time. It hasn't really done any driving. Although the engine's been, proven in another car, you still have to make sure everything plays nice and friendly in the new car. But other than that, like I said, the car's basically done. Just need to test it. Thank you guys for following along on this build. I have other stuff that I'll be working on as time progresses. I have a couple of videos for my truck that I have planned. I was actually going to do one this week for it, and then I got really sick to the point where I had to crank the heat in my house, and my wife was freaking out. She's like, it's boiling, I can't deal with this, turn the fan on. I'm like, no, I'm sick, the heat's going way on. And then a couple hours later, it was the exact opposite. Heat had to go off, crank the fan to full speed. I was boiling. So whatever I had for 24 hours, it was a nightmare. But anyways, I'm healthy now. I'll get to that video at a later time. But anyways, this one's gonna be done. If you have any questions about how I did that or why I did anything I did in this video, feel free to write a comment. But anyways, I'll see you for the next video, and if you guys get a chance, please like, share, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you for the next video.